I ask you to consider the greatest battle you will ever fight. It is not waged upon the fields of men, nor is it fought for the thrones and crowns of this world. It is not against flesh and blood, nor the circumstances that Caesar's world presents to you as solid fact. No, the true war, the only war that has ever mattered, is fought within the silent, unseen fortress of your own mind. For man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes outside of his own consciousness. He looks upon the world as the source of his troubles, the source of his joy, pointing to others, to events, to fate, blaming shadows for the state of his inner kingdom. But tonight, I say to you, the world is nothing more than a mirror, a magnificent, unflinchingly honest mirror that reflects back to you the sum total of all that you consent to as true within yourself. It has no will of its own. It cannot originate. It can only respond. And here lies the tragedy in which most men live. They spend their days polishing the mirror, screaming at the mirror, or begging the mirror to change its reflection, all while the true image maker, the unseen artist within, is left unattended, running wild. You have an enemy, an unseen enemy that whispers to you in the dead of night. It is the voice of doubt that questions your every victory before it is won. It is the serpent of fear that poisons the garden of your imagination. It is the governor of your past, forever replaying your failures upon the screen of your mind, presenting them as evidence for why your future must be just as bleak. This enemy is the sum of your unchastened, undisciplined thoughts, your own consciousness when left unguarded. And until you recognize that this is the only enemy and that the battlefield is entirely within you, you will remain a slave to the world you so desperately wish to command. So you have identified the enemy. You have looked past the shadows of the world and located the source of all your discord, the unguarded conversations within your own mind. But every great story of battle also tells of a legendary weapon, a sword of truth, a shield of faith, a key that unlocks the prison door. And I am here to tell you that you too possess such a weapon. It is the only one you will ever need. Most men live their entire lives unaware that they possess it. They look for strength in external things, in money, in the approval of others, in the laws of men. But the true power, the power that creates and destroys worlds, lies sleeping within you, waiting to be wielded. We shall call this weapon by its proper name, the mental diet. It is not a complex formula. It is not a mystical rite for which you must prepare for years. It is a simple yet profound principle. The mental diet is a conscious, disciplined refusal to entertain for a single moment any thought, any feeling that does not contribute to your ideal. It is the art of guarding the gates of your mind as you would guard the gates of your home. You are the gardener of your mind. For years, perhaps, you have allowed weeds of doubt and fear to grow unchecked, and then you have wondered why your garden yields such bitter fruit. The mental diet is the daily act of uprooting these weeds, not by fighting them, but by simply turning your attention away from them and planting in their place the seeds of your fulfilled desire. This is the work, the true spiritual work. The 15 minutes you spend in your imagination before you sleep is important. Yes, that is the seed time. But the true test is what you do in the 16 hours you are awake. For this is the soil. For what use is a seed lovingly planted in your sleep if you spend the day trampling the ground with doubt? What are you feeding your mind? What inner conversations are you having from morning until night? For your inner conversations are the fertile ground from which your tomorrow will grow. There is no escaping this law. What you mentally feast upon, you will physically experience. This is the one true weapon. It is the price you must pay for the pearl of great price. Now, let us examine the discipline required to wield it. To know of this weapon, this mental diet, is one thing. To wield it day in and day out is another entirely. It is here in the garden of your daily mind that the real work is done. And it is here that the seeking soul brings forth its most pressing questions. Perhaps you ask me now, what if I fail? What if for a moment or for an entire day I fall from my diet and feast on worry? Do I lose all progress? I say to you, does a child who stumbles while learning to walk declare the entire venture a failure? No, a fall does not define the journey, only the moment you remain on the ground. Your ideal, your assumption, is always waiting for your return. Do not condemn yourself. Simply lovingly return your attention to the man you desire to be. Forgiveness is not for another. It is for yourself. For every time you forget your own divinity, then the question of method arises. How precisely does one ignore a thought? Am I to fight it, to suppress it with force? This is a profound misunderstanding. You do not fight a shadow, you turn on a light. You do not fight the darkness, you introduce the sun. To suppress a thought is to declare it real and powerful. To ignore it is to simply quietly withdraw your very lifeblood from it, your attention. Turn your back, change the inner conversation. The moment the negative thought knocks, you answer the door and speak with a friend who is telling you the good news you desire to hear. But the mind is a ceaseless producer of thoughts. Must I then stand guard every single moment, you may wonder? It feels exhausting, impossible. In the beginning, it will require diligence, but the goal is not a state of tense, constant vigilance. The goal is to create a new mood within you, a new inner climate. When you are truly living in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, that feeling itself becomes the selective guardian. It allows only harmonious thoughts to reach you. The work then is not to police every thought, but to cultivate the core feeling of your assumption until it becomes your natural dwelling place. And what of the serpent that will not be ignored? What of the obsessive, intrusive thought that clings and will not let go? Here, your discipline is tested. You do not give it power by wrestling with it. Think of it this way. Where you place your attention, you give life. What you ignore, you starve. This intrusive thought is like a weed in your garden, demanding your attention. Do not fight it. Do not curse it. Simply turn your gaze away and give your water, your sun, your loving attention to the flower you wish to grow. The unwatered weed must wither and die. The world will then present its greatest test. How can I persist, you cry, when my senses, my job, my family, all scream the opposite of my desire? You must come to know, not just believe, that this world of Caesar is the world of dead things. It is the past. It is the shadow cast by former arrangements of your mind. You are not to take your cues from a shadow. You are to live so fully from your assumption that the world of shadows has no choice but to reform itself in the image of your sustained inner conviction. You are in Barbados, not by looking for the ship, but by sleeping mentally in Barbados. And finally, the question of time. How long? How long must I practice this discipline? And the only true answer is this. You practice it until it is no longer a practice. You remain on your diet until it becomes your nature, until you no longer try to think from the end, but you simply are the man who lives at the end. The goal is the Sabbath, that perfect state of rest, where all effort ceases because you know that it is done. You do not wonder how it will happen or when it will happen. You simply walk in the quiet confidence of a thing already accomplished. But let me also speak now to the silent burden so many carry. You may think that to live this mental diet means to be endlessly cheerful, constantly affirming, never shaken. And when anger or grief visits you, you say, I have failed. But that is not failure. That is humanity. Discipline is not the absence of feeling. It is the refusal to build your house upon it. You are allowed to feel. You are not required to remain. Some of you say, I speak the words, I do the techniques, but it feels empty. And I tell you, 1,000 lifeless affirmations cannot rival a single inner conversation whispered with conviction. Feeling is the secret. Not loud, not forceful, but alive. You do not need to shout into the silence. You only need to believe it is already heard. And what if you are alone in this? What if your friends scoff, your partner mocks, your family doubts? Then walk alone and walk with dignity. For one with God is a majority. Your kingdom is within. You owe no one proof, only your own transformation. And please do not measure your progress by another man's harvest. This journey is not a race. The oak and the lily do not bloom together, yet each arrives in perfect time. Be still and tend to your God. Your season will come. You have now tended the garden. You have faced the storm of your own thoughts, pulled the weeds and planted again with love and discipline. You have seen the power of your attention and you have begun to wield it. But the purpose of this work is not merely to change the scenery of your life. It is to change the man. It is not to get the thing. It is to become the one who naturally has it. The true gift of the mental diet is not what it brings you, but what it makes of you. You do not revise to erase a moment. You revise to reclaim the throne. You do not persist because you are desperate. You persist because you are royal. For every sustained assumption is a royal decree. And the world, obedient, indifferent, exact, must reflect it. You do not need a sign from heaven. You do not wait for the stars to align. The creative power of God is not out there. It is within your own wonderful human imagination. That is the holy place. That is the temple. And there you are king. So choose this day what you will feast upon. Choose the state you will live from. Choose the inner conversations you will host as honored guests in the halls of your mind, for they will become your world. You are no longer a servant of fear, nor a beggar of fate. You are the operant power. This is the throne of your inner kingdom. Sit upon it. Now, let us go into the silence.